I found out I was getting fired halfway through a Monday morning meeting, sitting at the same table I'd helped build over 25 years. I was flipping through a rollout report when Vince looked straight at me and said, flat as paper, "You're done, Nate. Time to let the younger team take over. No warning, no lead-in, just like that." Across the table, Brady, my wife's smug little nephew, leaned back with his arms crossed like he'd just dunked on me in some video game. He was 26, barely out of diapers when I was pulling all-nighters to stabilize Veritech's first national server expansion, and now he was sitting in my seat. My badge, the one with the gold-trimmed access clearance, was clipped to his hoodie like a damn accessory. Vince didn't even pretend to make it personal. No handshake, no eye contact. He just slid a packet across the table with his signature already on the last page. "We appreciate your service," he said, like he was reading off a card. I'd just skipped my son's first college football game, his first start, to oversee a weekend systems upgrade, one that saved the company over $600,000. And that didn't even get a footnote. Quick note: before listening, share which city or country you're watching from. I looked around the room, people I trained, people I pulled up when they had no clue what they were doing, and not one of them said a single word. Some stared at their laptops like maybe if they didn't blink, they wouldn't have to acknowledge what was happening. One guy actually coughed like that would break the silence. Brady broke it instead. "No hard feelings, Uncle Nate," he said with that greasy grin. "Gotta keep things fresh." I didn't say a word, didn't give him the satisfaction. I picked up the packet, heavy, legalese all over it, like they thought they'd buried me under paper. But what Vince didn't know, what no one in that room remembered, was that I'd buried something too. Clause 19C, buried in the systems architecture contract I fought tooth and nail for 15 years ago. The original architect operational override clause. Basically, if I was ever terminated without cause, I got emergency revert access to all core systems for up to 90 days. It was meant to be a failsafe, a security guarantee after one of our clients got hit with insider sabotage. They activated it the second Vince signed my exit. They thought I was out. What they didn't know was I'd just been plugged back in. I didn't storm out. I walked, quiet, steady, one step after another like I just wrapped another long day. Brady strutted the opposite way down the hall, all puffed up, nodding like he was running the place. He actually patted someone on the back. Didn't even know the guy's name. I hired that engineer 7 years ago. I passed the glass-walled conference room where Brady held his first leadership sync. I paused just long enough to hear him butcher the difference between solid-state storage and encrypted flash partitions. Some intern corrected him, gently like you'd correct a child. The room went dead silent. I kept walking. Half an hour later, while I was boxing up my things, someone sent me a screenshot from Brady's Instagram. "Running $1 million ops before 30 #NextGen leadership." Posted with a filtered shot of him, kicked back in my old chair. Same chair I used to nap in after those brutal 14-hour rollout marathons. I stayed late that day, not to soak it in, just to make sure I packed it right. My desk wasn't cluttered. It was curated. My son's Little League photo from when he pitched a no-hitter in 6th grade. A stack of hand-sketched network diagrams I never digitized because no one else could read my shorthand. Even the old aloe plant that somehow never died, even though I never remembered to water it more than once a month. Every item went in a box like I was sealing a time capsule. People walked past. Most didn't say a word. A few gave that awkward chin nod like they were scared I might actually say something back. One guy, Matt from sysadmin, muttered, "Sorry, man," without even stopping, like I was already 6 feet under. I closed the last box and stood up, swiped my badge at the exit. Beep. Green light. Door clicked open. They hadn't even revoked my badge yet. For all Vince's talk about the younger team taking over, nobody had the foresight, or maybe the guts, to shut me out. I stepped out into the parking lot, sun already dropping behind the skyline, and popped the trunk on my Civic. Loaded the boxes slow, deliberate, like I had all the time in the world. And I did. Because while they were inside celebrating, slapping Brady on the back for surviving his first day, I still had a key to the front door. I still had my credentials. And most importantly, I still had the kill switch. See, that clause Vince triggered. the one I embedded into the systems contract a decade and a half ago, didn't just give me back-end access. It made me the default control authority if I was let go without cause. It was a security failsafe, meant to kick in if someone inside tried to take over without understanding the architecture. Exactly like what was happening now. They'd have to go through layers of protocols I'd written in code no one else on staff could read. And judging by how Brady fumbled through basic hardware terminology earlier, they were already in way over their heads. I got in my car, turned the key, and I smiled for the first time all day. Next morning, I sat at my kitchen table in gym shorts and a ratty t-shirt, staring at my coffee like I didn't know what to do with myself. No schedule, no morning calls, no fire drills. Just silence, except for the soft hum of the fridge and the occasional buzz of my phone. At 9:04 a.m., the first one hit. A flagged email from Belgium. Shipment suspended. License ID tied to original engineer credentials. Not authorized for transfer. That was me. I took a slow sip of coffee, let it burn the roof of my mouth. By 9:16, Singapore froze a software clearance. Same issue. Legacy licensing locked to a unique back-end key. N. Riley. At 9:27, Toronto paused a full data migration and requested written confirmation. From my account. Not Vince, not Brady, me, and just like that, Veritech's global infrastructure started tripping over itself. I didn't smile, didn't gloat. I just sat there in my chair, warm mug in my hands, watching the heartbeat of $1 billion operation start skipping like a bad record. Then came the text. Kevin, 9:34 a.m. Brady froze when questioned, literally stared at the wall. That hit me harder than I expected. I trained Kevin myself. Used to stay late with him after hours explaining packet tunnels and sandbox triggers until his eyes glazed over. And now he was texting me like I was the only person left who knew what the hell was going on. Because I was. It kicked in like a bomb. Triggered automatically the second my termination processed without cause. Immediate reversion of all global vendor, code, and architecture ownership to me. They never read that far, or they did and thought it didn't matter. By 10:10 a.m., I had 12 emails from different teams asking if I'd be available to consult temporarily. All phrased politely, no apologies, just desperation, thinly veiled under quick favor language. I didn't answer any of them. At 10:38, another text. Luis, 10:38. M. Who the hell approved this? Vince is pissed. Brady looks like he's gonna puke. I topped off my coffee. By 11 o'clock, I got pinged from procurement in Mexico City. Authorization failure. Requesting manual override from original architect. It just kept coming, system after system, pipeline after pipeline, stalling out mid-process because nobody had the keys. And I didn't lift a damn finger. By noon, the CFO finally sent a company-wide email. We're experiencing intermittent back-end bugs. Engineering is aware and working on it back-end bugs. Cute. That afternoon, I logged into the admin interface using my fallback credentials. Still active. Of course, I didn't touch anything. That night, another text from Kevin. They don't even know what half your code does. Some of it's not documented anywhere. Exactly. I didn't build that company to be simple. I built it to be secure. And now, without me, they couldn't even reboot a server stack without calling for help. By the end of day 2, 17 international partners had pulled out. Not delayed, not paused, pulled. Every message said the same thing. Original architect, not enroll. Agreement void. I sat on my couch in sweats, scrolling through the fallout on my phone while the local news ran muted in the background. Italy shut down their distribution portal. Germany revoked 2 signed contracts. South Korea canceled a joint software build before it even launched. And that was just the first wave. The messages coming from inside were even better. One guy said Brady was holding daily syncs that turned into 5-hour panic spirals. Another told me Vince was red in the face screaming at IT like they'd personally rewired the servers to self-destruct. Kevin, 7:43 p.m. We've been in the same meeting since lunch. Brady's on his 4th Red Bull and still can't explain the rollback failure. They had no idea where the choke point was, because the choke point was me. The next morning, I watched Brady's big board meeting pitch get leaked. Full video, clean audio. He walked in like he still had a handle on things, said the outage was due to contract syncing issues, and claimed legal was already fixing it. He even smiled for the room. Dumb kid actually smiled. For about an hour after that, Veritech's stock ticked up. Then the system-wide shutdown hit. No warning. Just a bright red screen across all internal systems. License invalid. Original architect not detected. No servers moved, no files accessed, no shipments cleared. Absolute silence. My phone started blowing up again. A buddy from vendor management sent me a recording of Vince trying to call a legacy supplier in Boston. You could hear him clearly. "This is Vince Teller, CEO of Veritech. We need immediate reauthorization for..." Then the other guy cut him off. Cold. "We only deal with Nate Riley." Click. Brady tried rebooting systems through a bypass shell. I watched it in real time from a backdoor panel, one of 3 I built myself. The command didn't even register. That level of access required voice imprint and timestamp keys, both tied to my ID. They didn't just lose control, they never had it to begin with. Luis, 10:22. AM. Brady just punched a whiteboard and stormed out. Kevin, 10:33. AM. Legal looks like they've seen a ghost. Nobody's talking. I sat in the kitchen, peeling an orange. That afternoon, I walked to the little coffee shop near my place and watched 2 Veritech execs, both of them who sat stone-faced during my firing, whispering in the corner. I recognized one, Dana from finance. She looked over, saw me, and quickly looked away. They knew. They all knew now. I wasn't just another guy in ops. I was the blueprint, the spine. The system wasn't collapsing because of some bug. It was collapsing because they tried to rip out the foundation and replace it with ego. And ego doesn't code. Vince tried putting on a strong face, still calling meetings, still barking orders like this was salvageable. He even sent out a staff video. "We're handling the disruption internally." Remained focused and calm, but his eyes told the truth. He looked like a man trying to hold back a flood with duct tape. By nightfall, the whispers inside started getting louder. One engineer I'd never even met DM'd me on LinkedIn. "None of this works without you." Thought you should know I didn't respond. I just refreshed the dashboard one more time and watched a line of red errors scroll across the screen like falling dominoes. At exactly 6 a.m., they dragged the whole board into the main conference room, half of them still in coats, some with hotel key cards hanging out of their pockets. The second they walked in, every screen lit up bright red. "Chain inactive. Contract blocked. No sugarcoating. No fluff." Just those words, pulsing like a heartbeat on life support. Brady stood at the front in a wrinkled button-down, sweat already soaking through his underarms. He was clicking through a rush slide deck. Charts, arrows, projections, none of it grounded in reality. "These are just temporary sync delays," he said, voice cracking. "We're building a patch. Should be resolved within hours." One investor stood up. Gray hair, sharp suit, calm voice. "How exactly do you plan to patch a legal contract?" Silence. Brady stared at the laptop like it betrayed him. That's when the shouting started. People demanding numbers, names, dates. Someone yelled, "Why is Japan offline?" Someone else asked, "Is it true our Brazil rollout's invalidated?" Then the real hit came. Board member 3 seats down leaned forward and said, flat out, "Who approved his dismissal without reading the clause?" Everyone looked at Vince. He didn't move, didn't blink, just stared at the red error on the wall like it might change if he waited long enough. Legal finally broke the silence. It was Rhonda, 40 years old, blazer still buttoned tight, hair pulled back so hard it looked painful. You could hear the air leave the room. Vince's face turned the color of raw meat. He slammed both palms down on the table hard enough to make a pen roll across it. "This is a hostile act. We'll sue him. We'll sue everyone." Rhonda didn't even blink. "You'd lose. It's enforceable. There's case law. And you won't survive discovery." That word landed hard. Discovery means emails, memos, Slack messages, all of it. Another board member leaned back and crossed his arms. "You didn't just fire Nate," he said. "You torched your own future." Brady finally sat down. His hands were shaking. Nobody said a word after that. Phones buzzed in pockets. Tablets refreshed with new outage alerts. The whole company was suffocating on one decision. The same execs who looked right past me at that Monday meeting were now whispering into each other's ears like scared kids in a fire drill. And Vince, he didn't say another word. He just stared at that red screen, his jaw locked, while everything he built slid out from under him. The next morning, my name was everywhere. Veritech CEO fires engineer, loses $1.1 billion in patents overnight. CNN ran a full segment with dramatic music and animated graphs. CNBC had analysts talking about unprecedented structural vulnerability. One anchor literally said, he walked out with the backbone of the company in his pocket. And yeah, they ran the footage, security cam from the lobby. Me walking out calm, box in one hand, coffee in the other. No rage, no yelling, just steady steps and a door swinging shut behind me. One network called it the most composed exit in tech history. I didn't ask for that title, but I wasn't giving it back either. Meanwhile, Brady vanished. His LinkedIn disappeared, Instagram wiped, Twitter locked, but the internet never forgets. His last selfie, the one in my old chair captioned running $1 million ops before 30, got memed into oblivion. People overlaid it with Veritech loses everything, slapped clown wigs on him, posted side-by-sides of his face and a dumpster fire. Brutal stuff. I didn't post a thing. I didn't need to. The story was moving without me. By Thursday, employees started bailing, not just a few. Whole departments ghosted. IT dropped off Slack midday. No goodbye messages, just gone. Legal lost 2 associates in one afternoon. On Friday, HR stopped answering emails. Someone posted a screenshot. Error 503, internal communication failure. Poetic. Then the LinkedIn posts rolled in. We trusted Nate. They replaced him with nepotism. You don't fire the guy who built the foundation. Period. Veritech isn't Veritech without Nate Riley. My inbox filled up with requests. Contractors, vendors, random engineers asking if I was building something new. I didn't respond. I wasn't rushing anything. Then the board reached out. Not through email, not through the company line. Private number, no caller ID. I let it ring once, twice, then picked up. It was Don from the board. Same guy who couldn't meet my eyes when they fired me. Nate, he said, voice tight. Would you be open to meeting? Quietly. Off the record, I looked down at my watch. It was 10:15. I've got coffee plans, I said. A beat of silence. Understood. Click. I didn't have coffee plans. Not yet anyway. But I sure as hell wasn't walking into some backroom apology tour like a stray dog they suddenly wanted to feed. They wanted to meet now, after everything. Too late. The thing they never understood, the thing Vince refused to understand, was that power doesn't live in titles or offices or stock options. Power lives in trust, in code, in the bones of the system. And those bones were mine. So, no, I didn't show up to their quiet little meeting. I walked 3 blocks to my favorite cafe, sat by the window, and ordered a black coffee and a cinnamon roll. The sun was out. My phone was buzzing. And I didn't owe them a damn thing. Monday morning, they tried to take control back. Didn't matter that the office was half empty. Didn't matter that HR had stopped responding and IT was working remote from who knows where. The boardroom was still lit, blinds down, tension thick enough to choke on. Right at 9 a.m., the projector flickered on, and there it was. Clause 19C, full screen, highlighted, blown up so even the oldest guy in the room couldn't pretend not to see it. 42 patents, locked, transferred. Signed over the moment I was terminated without cause. And at the very bottom, Vince's signature, big, bold, time-stamped, clear as daylight. Legal didn't hold back this time. Rhonda stood up, same navy blazer, same pulled-back hair, but this time, her tone was surgical. Riley owns all 42 patents now, she said, voice steady. They're valued at $1.1 billion. There's no wiggle room. There's no appeal. It's binding dead silence. Vince leaned forward, elbows on the table, and tried to steady his voice. We'll buy him out, he said. He'll cave. Everyone has a number. Rhonda didn't blink. He doesn't need you. You need him. You could practically hear the oxygen leave the room. A few chairs shifted. One guy cleared his throat and glanced at the door, like maybe he wasn't sure he wanted to be in the room anymore. And then Steve, Vince's oldest ally, the guy who used to play golf with him twice a week, stood up slowly. He looked around, let the moment stretch, then laughed once, sharp and dry. "You didn't fire a guy," he said. "You signed your own death certificate." He dropped his pen on the table and walked out. No one followed. Vince didn't say a word. He just sat there, shoulders tight, eyes glassy, hands gripping the edge of the table like it was the only thing keeping him upright. He looked smaller, like someone had let the air out of him, because now they all knew everything that mattered was no longer his. The code, the control, the value, gone. I didn't need to be in that room to see it happen. I already knew the timing. I already knew they'd come to the end of the rope and find no more slack. The execs started whispering again. But this time, it wasn't about me. It was about Vince. What to do with him. How to move forward. What the hell came next? They were making plans, just not his plans. That was the last day he had control over anything. The board didn't vote that morning. They didn't have to. Everyone could see the writing on the wall. Vince had built an empire on confidence and charm, but he forgot that tech runs on architecture, not ego. And I was the architect. Vince resigned 3 days later. No press conference, no speech. Just a memo full of corporate buzzwords that didn't say a damn thing. Brady, gone. No farewell post, no goodbye email. Last anyone saw, he'd wiped his socials and dipped out of his lease. The empire they thought they controlled, it unraveled in 6 days. And me? I signed a short-term lease on a second-story walk-up 2 blocks from Veritech's headquarters. It wasn't fancy. 1 window, desk, chair, fridge, clean, quiet, mine. I unpacked 1 box, put my network sketches in a drawer, set up a basic rig, no nameplate, no logo, just space to think. That same week, I started getting calls, Germany, Montreal, Tokyo, old partners, legacy clients, former collaborators. None of them wanted Veritech. They wanted me. 1 firm, global, private, serious money, flew a rep out just to meet in person. No pitch deck, no contract up front. Just 1 line, "We want you to architect something from scratch. Your way, no red tape." The offer came 2 days later. Top-level advisory, massive pay, total freedom. I didn't even blink. I said yes. A few days later, I hung 1 thing above the desk, a simple wood plaque. No lights, no polish. Nate Riley. Systems architect clean, sharp, final. That afternoon, I looked down at my wrist, at the watch Vince gave me 20 years ago. Black leather band, gold trim, a thank you for my 10th year of service. I took it off and laid it in the drawer next to the sketches. Past life. A week after that, someone forwarded me a clip from the press. Vince outside some hotel in D.C., ducking microphones, waving off questions. Reporters shouting, "Do you regret the firing?" And "Who owns the patents now?" While he kept walking like he didn't hear them. He had no answers, just flashbulbs and noise and a face that looked 20 years older than it did a week ago. I watched the clip once, didn't replay it. They thought I was some old-timer, past my prime, out of touch. They thought they could replace me like flipping a switch. But you don't toss the guy who built the wires you're standing on, not unless you want to fall with them. And me? I didn't need to shout. I just waited and watched them fall.